All right. Well, hi, hello, and welcome to Scaling Your Retail Business Lessons from the Frontlines. Now, today's exciting webinar is sponsored by Intuit QuickBooks and produced by SmartBrief. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with SmartBrief, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator for this conversation today because these are all stories directly from the Frontlines. And I actually got my professional start working in a startup e-commerce company, and I absolutely remember that energy, that joy, the struggles, the passion, the feeling of being on this incredible roller coaster every day. And most of all, I loved the agility. I loved the innovative spirit, that go-getter, problem solver attitude of our team. And that's what we're diving into today. We are going to chat with a panel of experts who are living this retail ride. And they are here today to share some of those challenges, some of those triumphs, and most of all, their learnings from their own journeys with business expansion. We're going to get some tips, we're going to get some ideas, some key steps towards increasing volume while maintaining control over your growing business, all enabled by the right tools and technology. This is very exciting. I cannot wait to get started. We've got a lot to cover today and some great stories to get into. So I'm going to zip through a few housekeeping points, and then we will get this show on the road. Okay, so very first step, I want to take in a little guided tour of your audience console. Let's start out with the questions window. So you're going to visit that questions section of your webinar console. Now, this is the best place to get involved, to get interactive, to post all those insightful questions, all the comments, the feedback, the ideas, whatever's rolling around in your brain. We want to hear from you. So make sure you're getting those questions in. If you haven't already done that, why don't you give it a little test run right now? Say hi, say hello, tell us how your day is going, whatever you got going on. We want to hear from the wonderful community of humans here with us today. So give us a hi and hello in that questions window. And then throughout our day today, be sure you are asking all of those wonderful and insightful questions. Now, we're going to do our best to get to those questions in our live conversation, but there's a lot to cover. So if we don't get to you in a Q&A today, if we're not able to answer your question, please do know that your questions are getting sent on to the team. So you are going to hear back. You will get answers back, and you will get follow-ups to all of those wonderful questions that you've got. Now, that questions window is also a great place to let us know if you do have any technical issues today. Obviously, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't come up, but if it does, the very first thing you're going to try out is a browser refresh. That browser refresh is kind of the equivalent of the try turning it on and off again, right? You're going to try the browser refresh, and that is probably going to clear out most of the tech gremlins. But if they really have a hold of you today and the browser refresh did not work, shoot us a message in the questions window, and our team will be there to help you out. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Kimberly. I see some highs and hellos coming in. I love that. Keep that up, my friends. All right, the next stop on your guided tour is the handouts tab. Now, this handouts tab today, let me tell you, my friends, is absolutely full of really cool takeaways and resources. This is a literal treasure trove of interesting insight and cool follow-ups to the conversation that we're having today. We're going to meet some incredible team members today, and there's some great links to their individual sites, and you can get to know them a little bit better. There's all kinds of podcasts. I mean, believe me, this is, as I said, an absolute treasure trove. I'm not going to spend too much time exploring them right now. We're going to talk about them a little bit more at the end, but I don't want you to leave us yet. We've got a lot of content ahead, so don't go down the rabbit hole with our resources yet, but open those up, open those tabs, hold on to them for later, because I promise you will want to come back to them. There's a lot to cover here today. The last thing I'm going to point out is that we do have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing that we will be giving away at the end of our webinar. So you do need to be here live and present at the webinar. And all winners must meet the SmartBrief prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those terms and conditions are, don't worry. I don't have them memorized either. We've got them all written down for you in the handouts tab. So you're just going to click on over to that handouts tab that we were just talking about, and you're just scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you will find the full terms and conditions waiting for you there. All right, well, with that, we are going to move things on into our session because we have a lot to do today, and I am very excited to get these incredible speakers on out here with me and get this conversation rolling. So I'm going to start by introducing you all to our expert presenter and host, and that is, of course, Nate Flake, Senior Partner Development Manager at Intuit. Now, Nate is going to be speaking with some wonderful panelists: Ben Nurse, owner at Borrego Outfitters; Matt Boytz, Chief Operating Officer at Leverack; Christy Hare, CEO at Mac and Rex; and Sean Lock, McLaughlin, owner and creative director at Cascada. This is an absolute all-star crew. They're a brain trust of information just waiting in the wings here. So Nate, you are our fearless leader and intrepid moderator for today. I can't wait to hear what you have in store for us. So I'm going to hand things on over to you. Take it away, Nate.
Thanks, Jess, for that introduction of these awesome retailers. I'm excited to dive in. So we're just going to go into our first question. This question is going to be for everybody. The question is, to help us better understand your businesses, can you share with us how your products are sold and distributed? Meaning, is it in retail? Is it strictly online? Or are you a mix of both? And we are going to go ahead and start with you, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. So super excited to be here. So Librex in its 8th year of business, initially starting out, we were, and still to this day, sell direct to consumer as well as direct to businesses. We've got a fairly healthy online platform through our e-commerce website. We've got an alternative authorized online retailer that we sell through as well as a reseller. And then we're in the process of developing a distribution network nationwide to help just broaden out our platform and our capacity as it relates to us continuing to grow our business. So we've a combination of both, but we market directly to the consumer. If you go look at us on Instagram, Facebook, kind of our LevRack brand presence is going to be a really strong presence in marketing towards that consumer. But about 75 to 80% of our business is done with businesses as well. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Sean, what about you?
So we started as a maker studio, and that changed dramatically in COVID. We were only B2B at that point. We had just started a new website that was consumer facing. And when COVID shut down the studio, our business completely changed. And today we sell about 80% through our online store. We've just launched a branded store on Amazon just a few weeks ago. And we still have a wholesale business, which is growing again. And it's about 25% of our business. And we have a good hospitality business that's also growing with restaurants and hotels.
Thanks, Sean. It's amazing how many businesses like yours pivoted during COVID. And then the new norm is actually better than it was in the past. So thanks for that. Christy, what about you?
Well, we actually started during COVID. We started making bracelet kits and selling individual bead colors and bracelets online. We first started with Etsy, and it was going really well. And I thought, okay, if Etsy ever shuts me down, because you hear about Amazon or Etsy, shutting you down, we've got to have Shopify. So we throw in Shopify. That's going well. So we throw in Facebook and Instagram, then Google Merchant. We launched TikTok Shop this year, and then now we're expanding into Amazon. So that'll be up and running by the end of Q3. And we design all of the bracelets in-house, but we're so busy now that there's no way we can keep up with it. So about 90% of our bracelets come from overseas now, and the other 10% will fill when we run low on something. But we do all of our own manufacturing for the kits and breaking down the beads and putting them in bags, all in-house. So that's where we're at. We just recently got on Fair.com, a little bit of wholesale there. We have a high demand for wholesale, but it's really easy for us to sell direct to consumer. So I don't know if I want to bite off wholesale fully yet because we have that great profit margin.
Thanks, Christy. Sounds like you guys are super heavy on the e-commerce side, which is awesome. All right, Ben, so we're going to pass it to you. What about Borrego Outfitters?
So Borrego Outfitters is a business that my wife and I started together in 2002. Primarily bricks and mortar. We had been part of the first wave of e-commerce starting in 1995. Sold our e-commerce business. We're thinking of taking it easy, so we moved to this little desert resort town called Borrego Springs in Southern California, and started Borrego Outfitters as the casual lifestyle store. We kind of thought it was going to be a hobby to start, but we were greeted by a lot of success and a lot of enthusiasm from our customers. So we expanded our product mix and our customer base over the years. In 2016, we expanded to a 5,000 square foot footprint, continued to grow along. In 2020, as the pandemic hit, we did two significant things. We pivoted back to e-commerce and have remade ourselves as an omni-channel retailer at this point. We became employee owned. We brought our entire team in as ownership in the business. And here we are in 2024, going strong both with our original store in Borrego and online.
Thanks, Ben. So I'm going to start with you for the next question as well. So when did you realize your business idea was the right one?
Pretty much shortly after we opened, when we started having a lot of enthusiasm from our, from our customers. Our revenues seemed to keep growing year after year. We had a lot of people coming in and basically saying, there's nothing like this anywhere where I am. And these are customers that largely came from, the big surrounding cities around us, in San Diego and Los Angeles and whatnot. And so we built up a loyal customer base, and people kept on coming back. And they stuck with us all the way through the pandemic. When we closed our doors, we were doing all kinds of stuff like, selling on Zoom and having people come up to the windows of our shop and showing them stuff through the windows. And we kept it all going, kept the team together. And as I said, really got back into the e-commerce, which we had largely avoided for 20 years of our existence.
Thanks, Ben. So, Sean, what about you? I'll pass it over to you.
Well, the crazy thing is, I always thought it was the right one. it's design driven, and I do the design, so I don't know. I really played a role in it. But in terms of external validation, I don't know. I guess we did the Met Gala in 2017. So Anna Wintour picking our stuff over everything else in the marketplace. That was pretty special. That was nice validation. And then when we started to sell direct to consumer, which was almost accidental post-COVID, the demand was incredible. I mean, we're 3 times the size we were 4 years ago. And I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg, and seeing the reviews and the feedback from our customers and interacting with them directly is incredibly gratifying and sort of cements that belief that we're onto something that people care about and enjoy and like and value. So that's it. That's where we got it from.
Thank you, Sean. All right, Matt, we're going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, I was extremely fortunate in terms of kind of the business idea of LevRack was really founded. So I joined LevRack in year 1 of the business. So still very early on, but background in a Coke Industries based out of Wichita, Kansas, had an incredible experience there from a larger corporate setting, was ready for something different. So I think that what was right within LevRack, I think, is we're a really unique product in the fact that we own our utility and design patent on our product. We're 100% made in the U.S. And our industry and markets that we're serving are incredibly varied, anywhere from Tesla manufacturing facilities to Nate, you and your garage. We've got our product line that serves really anyone and everyone as we look at kind of space constraints within that. So in terms of the business idea being the right one, I was fortunate again of not being a founder, but an early adopter in terms of actually growing and scaling this business to where we're at today in year 8. So those things that really aligned for me in terms of making the jump and coming in and helping to grow the business. So.
All right. Thanks, Matt. I just want to know how you know that I have been looking at storage solutions, right? So, all right, Christy, we'll pass it over to you.
Well, I have never been big into jewelry, and as you can see, I'm kind of stacked up. What what was interesting to me is it was really hard for me. I'm not a super huge person. I'm definitely not on the skinny scale either, but I don't have massive size wrists, and it was hard for me to find a bracelet that actually fit the way that I wanted it to. So I started making some, and it was fun because I could then put whatever colors I wanted to into it. And I realized, okay, if me as not a major plus size person can't find bracelets, what about everybody else? And I realized there was this pain point of people who are super petite or people who are plus size. They can't find bracelets that don't have adjustable everything. So we actually carry 10 sizes. And as soon as I started selling those multiple sizes, and everybody's like, oh, they're flat. They lay against your wrist. I can wear them swimming. People got addicted to them. And people will put their toes in the water. They'll buy one or two, and then they'll come back and they'll buy like 10 or 20 more. And so that was a really, really good indicator for me that, okay, if somebody like me who doesn't normally wear jewelry can wear these and not even know that they are there, this is going to be good for pretty much everybody.
I love that, Chris. I love how you decided to kind of solve your own pain point, right?
Yeah.
If it's not out there, I'm going to go solve it myself. All right. For this next question, tell us about your absolute favorite product / service you offer and why. I'm going to start with Sean for this one.
Okay, so I think the best service we offer is the customer service. We do it all ourselves. It's 2 people. And no matter how big we get, I think that that's something that is a real differentiator for us. And it really helps us to understand what it is that they're doing, because we're really here to serve them. So whatever they choose to buy, whatever issues they have with our stuff, or if they just want to tell us they love us, we want to hear that directly. So that's the thing that I think is really central to who we are. But I happen to love Lucy, and I think everybody does. Lucy is our octopus print, and we have a new big platter that she's on, and I use it for everything. It's just the coolest thing, I think. But so those are my 2 faves.
That's awesome, Matt. What about you? And then for the next question, we'll go to Ben and Christy.
Yeah, I would say more just generally speaking, again, we are the only ones within the country and the world manufacturing and selling lev rack as a product itself. I think my favorite part about it is really our brand recognition that we've been able to build, and some of that brand allegiance with our customer base and recurring customers that continue to come back, whether it's business owners or individuals. We were able to really put some excitement within an industry, being within the material handling and industrial storage industry, where previously brand did not matter. People would take the cheapest option as it relates to being effective and efficient with storage within their space. With the work of really Ryan, our co-founder, who manages all of our strategic ambassadorships and relationships, we've got some excitement behind a brand that then people can really connect with. And it just happens to be a really effective, super unique, highly efficient product behind that brand. So we've always thought, again, from day one, mentioning too of who we market to and how we market. Yeti's a really great example that we talk about and try and emulate regularly. There is a level of quality that's associated with the Yeti brand. So we want to be essentially, as kind of cheesy as it sounds, we'd love to be the Yeti of shelves. So when you think about shelving, industrial storage, material handling, the big, bulky, heavy stuff, that we want to get some excitement behind that and really continue to grow that brand with a core group of ambassadors and really, really varied customer base that we work with as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. We could literally do a full episode on brand loyalty and what that means and why it's like extra important and to consumers now, right? Yep. So thanks for your thoughts there. All right, Ben, we're going to throw this over to you. So the question for you and Christy, can you share one of the best things you did as you were starting to grow?
Well, what I would say is that it was recognizing what our secret sauce is. And for us, we're a specialty department store. We sell many, many different products in many, many different categories. And so it was coming to a realization that the real strength that we had came in the choices that we and our buyers made for the brands that we brought in. And we looked for brands that themselves had leverageable stories that we could tell and a reputation for quality. And then put the whole mix together. And what our role as a retailer was to really put that entire mix together. Because we ended up with several hundred vendors that we had to deal with, another thing that turned out to be very serendipitous for us was that we started on day one at Borrego Outfitters back in 2002 with a electronic point of sale system. And we ended up actually picking what was version 1 of the QuickBooks point of sale system, integrated with accounting. And we were able to get all of our products and all of our vendors and do the purchasing function all operational. And had we not done that, we would have been, kind of the typical mom and pop, struggling to keep track of all of our products and our purchases and what's sold. And that helped us really realize that secret sauce that I was talking about.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. It's amazing how a little piece of tech can really save you thousands of hours and really perpetuate that growth. So, all right, Christy, same question for you. Can you share one of the best things you did as you were starting to grow?
Yeah, what's really interesting is mine's along the same lines. I tried to adopt tech early just to know what's out there. And one of the things that we did right is we got an inventory platform that would allow us to grow as a business. So even though we might not have needed all the functionality of Fishbowl right now, I knew it had integrations with Shopify and all these other things. So as we were growing, I didn't have to redo my system down the road. And I took the time to set it up right, get SKU, I was really smart about assigning SKU numbers, things like that. So we didn't have to go back and redo anything. And when we grow, all we do is just open a few more doors within the software and we're good to go. So I feel like I've been cheating because that was so nice.
Yeah, that's a cheat code, right? I love that. All right. Next question is, what is the biggest technology trial and error you've experienced at your company? And then how did you resolve it? We're going to go with Sean and Christy on this one. So Sean, we'll start with you.
Okay. So it's clear to me. So in March of 2020, I was scheduled to trial out my new ERP system and leave the comfort of my QuickBooks behind. And it was March of 2020. And that was the biggest trial and error. It was, they were offering a new small business solution, which I sort of thought we were ready for because we were sort of bursting at the seams. We were struggling as makers and doing our own logistics, and inventory tracking and assembly was challenging on the desktop version of QuickBooks. But so we made the transition, and it was a disastrous year for us. And we tried and worked through whatever, and we got through it. It was a disastrous and tumultuous year for everybody that year. So, good year to try this. And we were, and what it did was it allowed us to transition from the desktop version, enterprise with the inventory software and Fishbowl, to QuickBooks Online, and sort of reconfigure our tech stack when we came out of that. And we were a different company by then. We were no longer, primarily a B2B wholesaler. We were doing D2C, and Shopify was playing a bigger role, and plug-in apps were more important for us. And so it actually had a silver lining, and because I never would have left the comfort of my enterprise software had I not made that trial an error. Definitely an error.
That sounds like a wild year. I'm glad you survived it. All right, Chrissy, we're going to toss that same question to you. What is the biggest technology trial and error you've experienced at your company? And then, of course, how did you resolve it?
Is it bad that I was secretly hoping you wouldn't call on me for this? I have got one that is so fresh. So at the very end of April, I hired a consultant because as a business owner, you don't have enough time to do everything. I hired a consultant to clean up our Etsy SKUs so we could then integrate it into Shopify, and then Shopify would drop all that information into Fishbowl for us. So then we could pick, pack, and ship. And he was only supposed to bring orders over moving forward. He accidentally brought in all tens of thousands of orders from 3 years and flooded our Shopify and then into Fishbowl. And then instead of, hey, kind of contacting me and letting me know what he did, he saw that it looked like we had made a ton of money that day. So he panicked and he hit select all open orders, refund, thinking that that would solve the issue. Well, you know what happens? He refunded all of our open orders for 2 to 3 years, legitimate orders where we had shipped stuff out. And I quit counting the money when I saw it was over $20,000. And this is on a Friday, and I'm going, what in the world are we going to do? Like, you can't just like up and throw away 20 grand. I know we were probably like 30 or 40 grand, but guys, I had to turn a blind eye because it didn't feel good. So over the weekend, I was like, okay, I trust that I can get this cleaned up. So I cleaned up, I pulled all-nighters Saturday and Sunday, and I cleaned up all the inventory stuff. So we knew where we needed to be for Monday. And then I used tech to fix it in a very creative way. Monday just so happened to be my 39th birthday. And I knew all of those returns were going to be hitting on Monday, right? And so I took a selfie of me, which I never do anything like that on social media, with balloons. I said, it's my 39th birthday. We're doing 39% off today only. And we doubled our sales from what it was on Black Friday in 2023. And it completely saved our butts. Can I say that? We would have been dead, not necessarily dead in the water. Like, I managed the business well, but as the CEO, it was up to me to save that mistake. And so I needed cash flow fast. And so I looked in our inventory system, saw how much inventory we had, knew exactly what percentage I could give off, and I went for it, and we got it fixed.
Jeez, it's crazy. Crazy. Glad you guys got it fixed. So the next question is going to be for Matt and Ben. What kind of technology have you leveraged the most to grow your business? We'll start with you, Matt.
Yeah, I can take that. And Christy alluded to it as well, but we recently, I'd say within the last 3 years, we implemented Fishbowl also. One of the big points was QuickBooks Online has been our accounting platform from day one, from early on. Functionality, capability, visibility into data, and consistency of that data within QuickBooks was something we for sure wanted to keep. We needed, as we were continuing to grow, averaging about 45 to 50% year over year growth, and still continuing into that, we needed much better order management, inventory management, and just the day-to-day processing side that to help our team as we're continuing to move our product. So that was a really big push for us, capability to the pick, packing, and shipping, the inventory tracking, automatic reorder points with purchase orders, and then that every evening you trust that the data and work that's being done, that's getting pushed over to QuickBooks from the accounting side. I think, again, just highly leveraging that transparency and consistency of data that put a high priority on so that everybody has one view of what the truth is, and we've got confidence and trust within that, I think was huge for us. On the flip side of the sales side, we implemented a 3D builder, 3D configurator on our website. I'd say around that same time frame, so about 2.5 to 3 years ago. The adoption rate and conversion rate and just usage rate of that for us was well beyond what we expected. It's allowed some buy-in from our consumers. Again, as I alluded to, we're dealing with heavy industrial storage, but we're selling that to individuals as well as businesses. So we wanted to personalize that experience with our end users. So for you to be able to go into our website, build out a heavy industrial storage solution system, click submit, you get a copy of that image, part numbers, SKU numbers, quotes, and then it kind of goes from start to finish of that sales order life cycle. So those two things for us, I think, were huge as it relates to just the overall customer experience, but also internally with how we were managing change and managing those processes as well.
Wow, that sounds like a busy year. Not only did you guys do your custom builder, but then you're also implementing an inventory solution like Fishbowl, right? And it's so funny. Everyone I've talked to that has QuickBooks that implements an inventory solution or any type of add-on,
yes,
it's painful while you're doing it, right? But then once you see the light at the end of the tunnel, once you get it all set up and everything's working and streamlined, as they say, then it's well worth that small pain, But
100%.
You have to pay that small price to get it there and implemented, and then you're golden. So, all right, Ben, what kind of technology have you leveraged the most to grow your business? I know you mentioned QuickBooks Point of Sale. Anything else that comes to mind?
Well, and of course, we've moved on from QuickBooks Point of Sale since it was discontinued. But, that turned out to be a blessing in disguise as well, because it really propelled us into cloud-based solutions and away from solutions involving iron. And so that's been a big plus for us. But what I would say is that as a retailer, even a relatively small one like us, there's technology just about everywhere in the things that you do that's important. And so having a integrated point of sale that incorporates purchasing and your website and your cash register and your inventory, it's key. That would seem really basic for a retailer. But having a customer relationship management platform for doing outreach to customers, things like email outreach is also important. There's been a huge change in the way that purchasing works in the last 5 years, I would say, onto these B2B platforms that have many vendors on them. And so we have a whole series of platforms like New Order and Elastic and Envoy that our vendors actually are on. That's helped us become stronger and more efficient in the way that we purchase. Marketing, sort of the same story. There's a whole ton of do-it-yourself tools that have come along. Canva has been great for getting our team able to do graphic stuff, so we don't have to outsource it. Obviously, the AI like Gemini and OpenAI have been helpful. So it's not always such a head scratcher to write marketing copy. And, we've really benefited from getting to know the Google Ads platform, and we know that inside and out. And it's complicated, but it's been a big help in terms of moving the business along. The challenge with all of this technology is finding stuff that actually talks to each other. And it's been feels like a lifetime battle for me. It was a frustration back in the old days of QuickBooks Point of Sale. It wouldn't really talk with the other elements. And even today, there's not really anything that completely unifies everything. The world looks a lot better, but we still have these individual components and count upon how they integrate and talk to each other. And you never find out until after you've stepped in, unfortunately, because all the marketing folks will say, "Oh yeah, it's all going to work together," and then you get into the reality, which is, well, it doesn't really quite work together, or this doesn't work right, or you've got to do it this way instead of that way, and you never find that out until you're already, you're already dealing with the issues.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I 100% agree with that. All right. So the next question is for everybody. Who is your most important partner in your business and why? So I'm going to start with Christy on this one, and then we'll go around the horn.
I have a love-hate relationship with my accountant. And the reason why is because as an entrepreneur, you have so many ideas. You have all these things that you want to do. And then we have somebody that's realistic that's like, but it's going to cost money and we need to do this, and this. And so it's actually been a really good thing. One thing that's been helpful is I'm going back to Fishbowl, and I'm sorry. We do all of the order processing in Fishbowl, and then it kicks everything we need financially to QuickBooks. And so we almost have like this perfect separation of I don't touch his stuff, he doesn't touch my stuff. We meet about it. And instead of being like a bookkeeper that's reactive, he's very proactive. And I say, hey, I'm going to go launch on Amazon. He's like, well, how much do you want to make on Amazon? Well, I'd like to make $100,000, our first month. And he'll say, you realize that you need to spend X amount on inventory to do that. Like it's really nice to have somebody that's proactive on my team and looking at those finances, because that's not the part I enjoy. So I can just keep going, and he keeps me in check.
Yeah, thanks, Chrissy. I think it's probably the same story for a lot of people, right? They have any add-ons to QuickBooks. It's one of the great things about user roles within QuickBooks and having an add-on like a Fishbowl, for example. You can have your accountants play in their space, like you said, right? Do their thing. And then the users that are using these add-ons integrations, like a Fishbowl, they can play within Fishbowl, right? They don't have to be in QuickBooks anymore or have their hands in QuickBooks anymore. So, and then the room for error within that accounting system is so much less when you have less hands in the kitchen, right? All right, great example there. Okay, Sean, we're going to pass that same question to you. Who is your most important business partner, who is your most important partner to your business and why?
Well, so we've worked with a QuickBooks accounting partner from the beginning. And just in general, the woman who owned it and her team taught me so much about the basics of business and prevented me from making mistakes. I was already on QuickBooks. I had the regular desktop version, but I needed somebody to sort of help me make sense financially of the data I was putting in. So it was good with putting in the data and whatever. And this was many years ago. And as we grew and changed, she continued to teach me what I needed to think about from a business perspective if I was going to try, for example, to bring the production in-house and do the whole studio model and et cetera, and then help me understand how to best utilize profits if there were any, and how to think about what you do going forward to prepare for next year. And so that partnership has continued. We lost it for our little ERP distraction, and then we're back there with them now, and it's a different team, but still the same value there. I mean, I think it's really somebody who's got your back, and I think that's really
yeah, exactly. The pro advisors and QuickBooks solution providers, right? All these QuickBooks service providers, as we call them, they really add a level of confidence, I feel like, to your business. So thanks for sharing that. All right, Matt, we're going to pass it over to you. Who is your most important partner to your business and why?
Yeah, I'd say, collectively, I think our suppliers, vendors, contract manufacturers that we work with. So we contract out everything. We've got a supplier pool that's pretty heavily located within the Midwest. But that's again, going back to kind of the core belief in our brand and the product that we're actually manufacturing. I think we've got really strong relationships, long-standing relationships with some core suppliers and vendors that we've worked with from early on, and some that we're continuing to assess and onboard new. But I think without the people behind those suppliers and vendors, we don't have a product to sell, and we don't have a product to push all across the country. So they would be hands down our kind of the most important partner as it relates to what we do and how we do it. So
it probably took a long time to build up that network too, I'm assuming. Right.
It did. And a lot of, again, going back to trial and error, some pain points as it relates to going through cost analysis and onboarding some and offboarding others. But I think the key behind that was again, kind of going back to just relationship driven. So having full confidence in what someone's telling us and being direct and straightforward back. I think maintaining that objectivity within those relationships, I think, has been huge for us, and again has allowed us to scale our business with those key partners for us.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, Ben, what about you? Who is your most important partner to your business and why?
Well, I've got a little bit of a different answer to that because from my point of view, it's not any one. It's really having a network of outsiders that can provide expertise in various areas that are important to growing a business. And so that, goes to marketing, graphic design, product reps, technology, financial and accounting. All of those folks have something important to bring to the party. And so we look for folks that have an expertise and a track record. But I have to say also that this comes with a challenge for a business owner, which is that, I know more about my business than any of them. And, they can listen and nod their heads and learn a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that understands the ins and outs of my business. And so, my lesson is that you can't just farm it out and hope that it's going to get handled in the way that you would ideally want it to be. And I feel like it's important to do and learn about as much as you can, do what you can in-house, go outside for extra help, but always do that a little bit carefully because, you're the one that's going to be looking out for your own best interests. And you've got to know enough about what everyone else is doing and advising you about to do a good job of that.
All right, Ben. Yeah, thanks for that. I think that, making sure, like you were saying, that you're not a master of every outsourced flow that you have, but also having a finger on the pulse is super important, right? What's going on in your business, it's super vital.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of good founders and executives, like you guys on this call, right, have that skill. So for the next question, Ben, we're going to start with you. What is the secret to keeping yourself focused on the vision and business strategy rather than in the day-to-day? So very similar to what we were just talking about, right? How do you make sure that you're focused on the business, but not in the business too much, right? Because you still got to keep that vision and strategy for everybody.
Well, in terms of big vision, I would say, always look for feedback from outside. So we have a board of advisors. We know people in the various industries that we participate in from a product point of view, and our vendors and whatnot. And we're definitely not afraid to ask them for advice. So, take that in, delegate to your team. I've got a great team and they do the various pieces really well. And I sometimes have to learn how to not micromanage too much, but hand it off. Triage and prioritize. It's pretty much the story. But don't get too hung up on any particular factor. Learn how to prioritize and tackle it. And then, basically don't forget that there's a big picture out there and there's many little details that go into it, but you've got to keep track of the big picture. And so, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it, but be careful, subject to all the stuff that I said in my previous question. You're going to be the one that's truest to your business's own vision.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. No, I love that. You want to make sure that you don't give up too much control too early on as these processes are kind of mending themselves out, right? This is your baby. You guys all built these companies, right? And we're there for a long time. And it's so like giving up control while also maintaining quality. It's a hard skill to have. So thanks for that, Ben. All right, Matt, what about you? What do you think? What is the secret to keeping yourself focused on the vision and business strategy rather than the day-to-day?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be similarly aligned with with what Ben mentioned, but specifically focusing on kind of our group and team. So our team size has doubled in the last 12 months, just keeping up with that continued growth. And so we've been incredibly fortunate and have made some really great hires. So our team is incredibly solid. And within that, I think having that confidence and trust in what they're doing in order to get to that point, we've been really deliberate collectively as being extremely objective around expectations for everybody's roles, making sure that they understand what's expected of them and that expectation is aligned with what our leadership team is aligned with that for each of those roles as well. And I think just allowing some freedom then as well with those groups to avoiding that micromanagement. If we can define the framework in which every role and every individual is free to operate in, encouraging those decision-making processes for those individuals so that those decisions can be made by the individual as opposed to coming back and asking permission or coming back and asking for, mostly it's really the permission side. So everybody can be autonomous and independent within each of their roles that they own. That's what's really created that confidence organizationally to say, I trust that this is getting done here, this is getting done here. Therefore, I'm not going to scan through our shared info or sales email inbox because we're crystal clear on who manages that. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, hiring those right pieces are so important, right? But once you get a good hire, it's night and day. So, Sean, what about you?
I think it's really a challenge. You know, we are a tiny, tiny team. I mean, one hand tiny team. And so I try to stay focused on what's out ahead. That's how I sort of silo my stuff off. I don't believe in hierarchical top-down management structure. I work with really smart, responsible people, and I trust they're going to do a great job and they understand the brand as well as I do. And I think, empowering them to do what they're going to do and trusting that it might not be exactly what I want them to do, but it was good. And maybe I'm not right all the time. So that's sort of that interesting balance, right? And yet you want to lead with a vision and a philosophy and a passion, of course, that everybody can get behind. So it's always like walking a fine line. But I think if you surround yourself with good people and you communicate well and you enroll people in the vision that you're building for the future, you can't help but get people jazzed up about what they're doing too.
Yeah, that's great advice, right? Surrounding yourself with an awesome team. Christy, what about you?
It always goes back to, and I catch myself doing this often, if I'm working in the business, who's working on the business? And I have to constantly remind myself of that. And so I've got 4 key players, and what I'll do is I'll meet with them each week, and they each have 3 things that are their main focus outside of their job. Those 3 things just so happen to be the things that I need to hand off. And so then a week later, I can follow up with them on that progress. So instead of me trying to do everything, I'm making sure my key players are focused. They understand what they need to do, creates that autonomy that he was talking about. And then I can focus on the strategy and the growth of the business, because as the business owner and the entrepreneur, I'm going to be the one that knows best there.
Yeah, love that, right? Similar to what Ben said. So for this next question, again, this is the last question, and then we're going to have some audience questions, but this one is going to be for everybody to answer as our last panel question. What is the best piece of advice you'd give someone who's trying to get their business jump started? And we're going to start with Matt.
Yeah, I think kind of 3 things come to mind. I think one is do something. I think it's those like smaller incremental steps that we've seen over our 8-year period at LevRack, of always that hesitancy of or doubt that can kind of come in of should I do this? Should I go this direction? Should we initiate this this strategy or make this hire. I think those small incremental steps that, if we were to add those up over the lifespan of our business, have literally gotten us to the point where we're at now. So there's not, from our experience, there's not one major, huge, massive decision that's going to get you to this point. It's nothing new, but I think it's just that continual doing something. I think we talk often internally just around being intellectually honest. So I don't know what I don't know. So if we need to go to some outside sources to get that knowledge, to leverage some expertise, lean heavily on that network and on those people that are around you, with the idea and humility to understand and accept what I do not know. I think that's a big piece as well, for that advice. Yeah.
Awesome. Sean, what about you?
Well, I'm sort of going to echo a little bit of what Matt was just saying. You know, I don't think there's one thing, and I'll speak, primarily to the e-commerce stuff. If you go and you read about e-commerce and you read about D2C, all you hear about are stories of primarily young guys making tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and trying to decide which Lambo to buy. That isn't reality. It's just not. So first of all, do your homework and make sure that you've thought it through a million ways to Sunday. And then be prepared to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. All day, every day. You're getting married to something you don't even really understand. And so to Matt's point, keeping an open mind and trying to learn as fast as you can, as much as you can, is the only thing that's going to sustain you through what is in reality going to be a really long, incremental path forward that suddenly results in overnight success 20 years later. You know, it just, that's the reality for most small business owners, I think, most entrepreneurs.
Love it. Love the marriage analogy too. So Ben, what about you? What is the best piece of advice you'd give someone who's trying to get their business jump started?
So I have two thoughts here. The first of them is understand your competitors and why they're strong, and whatever that competitor word means for your business, that's what you should be focusing on. There are people that are competing for the mind share of your customers, and you really should try to understand what they're doing and why they're good at it. And then you can choose to emulate or fight or whatever you want to do, but it's important to understand that. And then the other piece I would say is, never take your customer for granted. Your most precious, asset in a business is your customer. And I think way too many businesses and people don't follow that advice and sort of just assume that that's all just sort of a result. Happens, you get customers, but your customers you should fight for and earn their business every day, doing everything that you can. And if you do that, you'll be successful in what you're trying to do.
Great advice, Ben. All right, Christy, what about you?
There's two things that come to mind. One is problem solve creatively. And the second is don't be afraid of tech and automation. So when I say problem solve creatively, we used to have somebody sitting at a scale. They would weigh beads, put them in a bag, sitting at a scale, weigh beads, put them in a bag. And I thought there has got to be a better way to do this. So we jump on Amazon, we find a powder filling machine, and it's not perfect, but it can tell us how many grams, and then you hit a button and it goes into a bag. Well, I hired an engineer to make it so that sucker was so accurate. So now we're just pumping out 10-gram bags all day long. And before we would be spending 8 hours a day on it, and now we're spending 30 minutes. And so in reality, between automations and creative problem solving, I've gone from a team of, even though we're increasing in size in business, I've gone from a team of about 12 people down to a team of about 5. And that's because of creative problem solving.
Yeah, I love that. I think people are a little, like you said, afraid of automation, but the advice is, start small. You don't need to swap your whole entire organization over to AI driven solutions first day, right? Start small, and then kind of build your way out from there. So thanks for that, Christy. So, all right, we are going to change gears a little bit and address some of the questions from the audience. Looks like we have a few here. I'll try to find a question for each of you. Here we go. So Ben, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any tips for choosing the products for online versus the store? And are they the same or completely different?
So what I believe in is omni-channel. And what that means is that what's in the store and what's online is the same. We're making the choices, and that we're serving our customers wherever they might come from, be they online or walking in the door of the store. And so that being said, we look for a unique brand proposition in the products that we offer, and a brand that has some strength, maybe leverageable strength, where all these brands invest a ton of money in building their brands and telling their stories. And so if they're doing a good job of that, then there's an opportunity for us to utilize that. It's not always sort of the big, most recognized brands. It's also might be a unique value proposition. I was interested in Christy's business and what she's done to, identify a product that I would say is a unique value proposition. And so those kinds of things you can add into your mix as well. And, it makes a lot of sense. At the end of the day, go with your gut is my feeling. Is this, a product that I would buy or use in my home or wear? And, if it is, it's probably right for my business and for my customer base. It just, it's kind of worked out that way. So that's what I would say about product selection and choosing for the store.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. All right, Sean, I have one for you. As the owner and creative director, how do you stay inspired with design ideas? There is obviously a constant supply of new products.
Oh, it's how do you not make every product you're inspired to make? It's more about self-control. Somebody once said to me, in terms of product development, it's revolution. It's evolution, not revolution. And I think that that's really true. Taking what you see people love and iterating on that. But in terms of inspiration, it's everywhere. I mean, I go through the world with my eyes open and my ears open. I love to cook. I love to entertain. So that's sort of who I am. And I find inspiration everywhere. I'm always clipping images and taking images. I mean, I'm hundreds of thousands of pictures on my phone, and I go back to it because it sparks an idea, or I see something in a totally different vein. A piece of jewelry or something, and I'm not a jewelry designer, but I see lines in that I find. So it's really more about keeping a focus on the size that we are and how much we can handle in terms of new products that are completely new, to try new ideas. So we try to do that a few times a year with something that's completely new. And we also try to get creative around what else we use our patterns and designs on to see if there's something else that might work as well as a kitchen towel or a piece of glass or a plate or something like that. So,
I love that, Sean. That's super interesting. Christy, this one's for you. Do you have any recommendations for managing your suppliers?
For sure. And maybe Matt can back me up on this. The first thing I do is I put my supplier into Fishbowl. Matt had mentioned that he has Fishbowl too. But what Fishbowl does for me is it tracks my suppliers. It will, if I order the same product from multiple people, It tells me my last cost. It tells me how long it takes them to ship it to me. It's like cheating, honestly. And the other thing that kind of plays into that is when you go to do a purchase order. So when we're in the bracelet industry, pictures of what we're selling matter. Making sure we have the right colors matter. One of the things that Fishbowl allowed us to do was create a custom report that attaches a picture to the items that we're ordering. So when that gets emailed over to the vendor, they have all the information that they need and we're good to go. We're just sending a cute little email because we had a button and Fishbowl tells us what to order. So managing the suppliers is kind of like cheating if you put them in Fishbowl.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy. All right, Matt, this last question is for you, and I think we are running out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Your ambassador program is so unique. How do you find ambassadors and keep the relationship with them?
Yeah, for sure. I'd start by saying that I'd say 100% of the credit for our ambassador program goes to our co-founder and CEO, Ryan Stauffer. So he's huge on relationships. I think that's really where he thrives. I'll dive into numbers and execution much greater than on the relationship side. But I think we've seen I think just a level of genuine relationship that can be behind a really genuinely like simple and transformative product for people. Again, it goes back to the use cases for our lead rack systems are so varied. You look at our ambassador page, we'll have A-list celebrities to professional athletes to country music artists. I think from that side, all of that stems back to, can the people behind the brand genuinely develop a relationship and be vulnerable enough, whether it's from a product side or just from a personal side, to relate with our customer base on a level that gives them confidence, not only in our product, but also in the people that they're working with. I think that's what we've learned from day one, is that there's a person behind everything. There's a person behind every system, a person behind every process. So I think just us highly prioritizing how genuine can we be within those relationships and about our product to strengthen both the brand, but also add some value along the way in a truly transformative product, I think is really where that ambassador program has continued to grow and genuinely really organically for us. So it's the product speaks really loudly for itself when you have a really good product. So I think just compounding that with that genuine relationship and focus on relationship has been huge for us.
Thank you, Matt. It's super awesome what you guys have done with that ambassador program, by the way. It's pretty amazing. So, all right, we are out of time. So I want to first thank the panelists for joining us today. You guys killed it. Super insightful answers. And I think all the listeners probably learned a little bit, not only about your business, but also about how to run their own business. So we appreciate it. First things first, if you want to support some of these awesome brands, click on the link in the handouts tab, and you'll find a promo code for each of these products as a thank you for attending today's webinar. I know I am going to run to your guys' websites because it's awesome hearing about your products, and I want some of them. So, and then also, if you found our webinar helpful, please visit our retail webpage for more valuable insights to keep building your businesses. That website is quickbookspartnersolutions.com. We have a ton of cool materials there. We have a retail podcast, a bunch of cool stuff that you can continue learning on, right? Because that's what we're all trying to do. So I want to thank you guys all for joining, and I will throw it back to you, Jess. Thank you, panelists.
Well, and I am sneaking that promo code back up because that is very exciting. That's a great giveaway and offer to everyone out there in the audience. So I'm going to leave that up for another second. Thank you so much to that entire crew. Wow, Nate, you really took us through an incredible conversation. Ben, Matt, Christy, and Sean, thank you so much for sharing some really valuable insight into your experience and some great takeaways for those of us here with us today. Again, speaking of takeaways, I'm going to leave that code up for another second longer. Make sure you you've got that promo code and you're visiting all of the sites. Now, if you are looking for a quick and easy way to explore these incredible teams that we just heard about and use this promo code, you can actually head back over to your handouts tab. I'm going to move over to our QR code. So last chance to get that promo code. Make sure you've got it. All right. So we've also got this QR code for you, which is going to take you over to the Intuit and QuickBooks website. Make sure you spend some time exploring that. There's lots of great offerings and takeaways there. But I want to talk to you about all the incredible links in the handouts tab because there are a lot of takeaways. I mentioned this at the top. Absolutely a treasure trove. You need to go and spend some time exploring. So let me talk to you a little bit about what's there. You can get to know Borrego. That's one of the teams that we just heard about today. I have already flagged a gorgeous sweater and some cards that I will be picking up later. Definitely spend some time getting to know Mac and Rex. These jewelry pieces are truly unique and so beautiful. 10 out of 10 recommend. If you are looking for a gift for somebody, maybe you want some great summer accessories, make sure you've got that open. The Leverack link, if you're looking for some storage solutions, which let's be honest, who isn't? We all need storage solutions on a day-to-day basis. That's important. Cascada, I am absolutely in love with the patterns of these kitchen pieces. Oh my gosh, they're so fun. There's an octopus teapot that I think I may need to own. And also, of course, make sure you visited that page on Ability Business. Learn about some tips for increasing your financial success with that tailored advice, tailored services. Also, again, obviously spending some time exploring the Intuit and QuickBooks website. There are so many great resources and takeaways for you there. We all know that this, as we've talked about a lot, this journey in retail, it has a lot of ups and downs, and there are a lot of tools waiting for you there in this website. So make sure you go and explore. Speaking of which, we heard a lot today about Fishbowl. You can learn a little bit more about Fishbowl inventory. This is the #1 inventory management software for QuickBooks users. So this is a great place to spend some time. Now, if you enjoyed this conversation today, you are primed and ready. I have the podcast for you, the podcast that you all need. Let's Get Retail, a retail growth podcast for non-technical people. So if you are a non-technical person, you will get a ton out of this. And if you are a technical person, you will get a ton out of this. This podcast is fantastic. I know I am always looking for good new podcasts to spend some time with. So make sure you've got that podcast open as well. All right. That was a lot of resources. Again, that is all there for you in the handouts tab. Make sure you've got those tabs open before you take off. And dun, 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 we have one more piece of excitement for all of you. We have a $250 Amazon gift card that we will be giving away right now to someone who is here live, present, and lucky at the webinar today. And that special somebody is Jody Axford from Wyoming. Jody Axford from Wyoming, congratulations to you. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up the webinar. All right, my friends. Well, with that, I hate to say it, but we're going to have to leave it there. On behalf of the Smart Brief team, I want to once again thank Intuit QuickBooks for making this webinar possible, especially to our incredible speakers here with us today. That's Ben, Matt, Christy, and Sean, and our absolutely wonderful, fearless leader, Nate. You have all given us a ton to think about, some great stories and takeaways and ideas, which, that's going to bring me around to all of you, because my biggest high fives and gold stars go to all of you here with us today for making this webinar possible. We so appreciate the time that each one of you has taken out of your days to come and join in this conversation today. Again, we got some great stories. You know what? I'm going to steal the words from Christy. I think today we got to focus a lot on how to be less in it and more on it. And that's really enabled by having the right systems, the right technology, and by participating in conversations like this. So I know that today for some of you, it was a little hard to take time away from being in it and think about being on it. And I want to thank you for that time. And I hope that you're feeling lit up, excited, and ready to continue these conversations. So I know that we'll get to see you on a webinar again soon. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.